The Mavericks front office is blowing up. Could the roster be next?
Maybe. I know Caleb Martin might want to return to Miami, but how would Anthony Davis look next to Bam Adebayo?
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Join the Cookie Gang, become an everydayer by hitting that subscribe button. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. Got a ton to get to today. We're going to talk about what the Heat's offense could look like when Tyler Herro and Bam return, whether or not the Heat are just better off without Tyler Herro. I know a lot of people are asking about that. Plus, where the Heat stand in the latest NBA power rankings. But, David, we got to start with the breaking news out of Dallas this morning. The Mavericks fired GM Nico Harrison this morning, and it looks like they are taking an L on the Luka Doncic trade. This raises a ton of interesting questions about their future, including whether or not this is the end of Nico Harrison's 3-year plan, or if they're going to still try to maximize sort of this window that they've got with Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving. But this team is bad. They're 3-8 right now in the Western Conference. Brutal loss, giving up a 14-point lead to the Milwaukee Bucks in the game right before Nico Harrison got fired. But there's a lot of questions now in Dallas about whether or not this is the last of any major changes, or if this is the first of maybe something that could end up seeing some of these veterans get traded here before the NBA trade deadline. Maybe they just kind of go the other way and say, well, we kind of got lucky with Cooper Flagg winning the lottery. Nico Harrison's guard, let's just lean all the way into the Cooper Flagg era here, and what that means for this roster could be really interesting. Let's just assume here then, David, that they do start listening to offers for everybody on the roster outside of Cooper Flagg, I would imagine, right? Is there a player on this Mavericks roster that if you were in the Heat front office, you would be calling about?
It's really tough right now because the Miami Heat are a team that looks really good and has depth. They're winning. They have a style of play that fits the roster, and they're capitalizing on what they've got going right now. And they're missing 2 key starters in Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo, again, who we'll talk about later on in the show. So when you look at what Miami's missing, it doesn't seem like a whole hell of a lot. And so it's tough to argue, you know what, let me pilfer this player or that player. Having said that, I guess there's one name that might be somewhat of a curiosity to me, and that's PJ Washington. I think, again, he's a player who's been beneficial in the past when Dallas was on their run to the finals, again, with Luka Doncic on the roster. So I think Washington is a name who I liked when he was with the Charlotte Hornets, a guy who's a kind of a stretch big. You know, he can play outside. He can play inside a little bit. Just provides a little added depth there. Other than that, I struggle to find any names that would be a huge addition. Like, I don't think Kyrie Irving is necessarily gettable. And at this stage in his career, I'm not sure that he necessarily fits what Miami is looking to accomplish. So it's tough to make an argument for any of the players there. Again, Cooper Flagg being, you'd have to assume I'm completely untouchable. So I don't know that there's anybody else in that roster that really stands out as a must need, especially for a team like Miami that's playing as well as they are.
Yeah, there's some kind of bit players that are sort of interesting, like a Najee Marshall or a Jaden Hardy or something like that, right? But beyond just the sort of names like that, PJ Washington is an interesting one because you're looking at this team outside of Bam, they don't really have a reliable big, right? Kel'el Ware is young, Nikola Jovic is youngish, right? At this point, like, you are expecting up and downs from those guys. But if you're a Heat team that feels like you're maybe higher up in the standings and in the power rankings that we'll get to here in a second than you thought going into the preseason, or maybe you think that the East is open and you might want to make a little bit of a move here. Somebody like PJ Washington could make a lot of sense, even as a third big. If you do ultimately end up starting Kel'el next to Bam, still having PJ Washington as another big who can either play off the bench or play next to. We've seen PJ Washington play small forward in these sort of these jumbo Dallas lineups.
Yeah,
that could be really interesting. And At $14 million, he's making $14 million this year. He's under contract for 4 more years after this one. That is a great contract for a guy who is a good defender, a little bit of a streaky shooter from three-point range, but when it's going, it's really going, right? We remember during that finals run, it was going, and that was a big reason why Dallas was able to make it out of the Western Conference. Yeah. He does a lot of things in between, too, though. When that shot isn't falling, he's a pretty decent rebounder. Like I said, good defender, can keep the ball moving. I think he would fit on this team.
Yeah.
And I don't know that Dallas wants to move him. He's only 27 years old. He's under a great contract. He would be the guy if I'm the Mavericks. I'm probably not looking to move PJ Washington. He's not as young as Cooper Flagg, obviously, but there's no urgency to move off him unless I get bowled over by some sort of offer. He's in the same window.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to give me a really nice first-round pick or 2 pretty decent first-round picks, I'd at least think about it. But if I'm Miami, I'm not doing that. Maybe if I'm another team, that makes a little bit more sense. The other guy I want to talk about here.
It would be like Terry Rozier.
Well, here's one.
Yeah.
Let's say Terry Rozier's contract gets unfrozen and you can actually move him. He's a 1-year he's an expiring deal. That could be interesting to a Dallas Mavericks team that would be trying ostensibly to get off some future money.
Absolutely.
Terry's making $26.6 million. I don't know that I'm trying to get up to your point, the Kyrie Irving money at $37 million. That's a little bit too much. And Kyrie Irving, 33 years old, the injury history. I'm not going down that path. That made more sense during the Jimmy Butler window, not so much now.
Right.
And if Miami didn't want Kyrie then, they certainly don't want Kyrie now. We could talk about Anthony Davis here in a second, but that's $54 million. That's a different kind of math that we got to figure out.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in Klay Thompson at $16.5 million if it meant you trade Terry Rozier's 1-year contract, you get Klay in the building, he's under contract for another year after this one, but as we've discussed multiple times already, David, like the Heat aren't playing for free agency of 2026. They're eyeing free agency of 2027. Klay will be off the books by then. And he wouldn't replace Norm Powell. He wouldn't replace Tyler Herro, but he would be a really good quick release shooter in this offense. Reserve off the bench. It's a little interesting to me. I don't know that I'm giving up a ton for Klay. I'm not putting a first round pick in I'm not doing any of that. But if I could offer Dallas just salary cap relief in the near term, I'd at least make the phone call.
I don't know that there's a role necessarily for him on this team either. It's just, you don't want to have a veteran like that, as accomplished as he is and as still productive as he is, just kind of stash on the bench. But
you take the Fontecchio minutes.
Would you rather have Klay over Fontecchio at this point, given his salary and everything else?
I can't believe you're even asking that, and it's not an absurd question. But
I mean, Fontecchio's been better than Duncan Robinson.
Klay and his boat in Miami, that's just fun to me. And if it means that you can move off of Terry Rozier and get something for that spot, I'm at least into it.
Does it mean Megan Thee Stallion at Kaseya Center too? Because then that's a whole other conversation.
Of course it does. Sign us up. Let's talk about Anthony Davis.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Megan Thee Stallion, but
next segment. 50. We'll do a Megan Thee Stallion album rankings. $54 million Anthony Davis is making. We know he works with Bam. Why? Because they won a gold medal together. They also won a gold medal playing next to Kevin Durant and Steph Curry.
Yeah,
but it helps. But Anthony Davis, when he's healthy and out there, I mean, that's just a better version of what Bam does with Kel'el Ware, right? So, I don't know. Anthony Davis, 32 years old, the injury history being what it is, but when he's out there, he's still an elite player. I don't know that I would go so far as to try to offer a bunch of stuff for Anthony Davis at 32 years old with his injury history, but it's an interesting name, David.
Yeah, no doubt. It just feels like that's a huge pivot from Miami. Like, I don't even. The bigger question with this Heat team right now is, what are you looking to do? Do you really see yourself? Because it almost feels like, I don't want to say that this 7-4 run is fool's gold, because I'm a believer. You and I were both talking about this team in the preseason as being better than what a lot of people expected them to be. I think maybe even this group has exceeded even our expectations to a certain degree, but we knew that they were capable of being good. It's just kind of manifested a little bit quickly. But it kind of reminds me of 2019 in the sense that that team, when they added Jimmy Butler, they instantly became far better than anybody else expected them to be. And they were always kind of stuck in between these two different timelines where they were much better than they were supposed to be and not good enough to actually view themselves as a contender. They just really, were very difficult to eliminate, and they had some real heart to them. And they were a very good team, just not a great team. And so when you look at this roster, how do you evaluate what they are and make the appropriate changes? Because is this all a mirage?
Right.
And if such, do you just say, you know what, I wouldn't want to acquire a player like Anthony Davis because what's the point? Or do you see yourself as such a legitimate contender that at AD at this stage in his career, given potential injury issues and everything else, he's going to make that much of a difference where you're guaranteeing yourself a title this season? Because if not, I don't see any reason why you would add a player like AD. Not even that he might be available or not, and necessarily, again, having to consider Rich Paul and everything else that comes with it. So I don't even know if Miami is in that position to say, you know what, we're that good that a player like AD guarantees us being able to, I don't know, say challenge the Oklahoma City Thunder or Nikola Jokic in the finals or something like that. Because that's really what you have to do.
The two big lineup is becoming a thing. And if you have Anthony Davis and Bam Adebayo as your two bigs, there's not a better two big lineup in the league. You are now the best at doing that in the NBA. The problem, though, if you're the Heat, is you're doing this other thing right now that's working. And I don't know that Anthony Davis works in this up-tempo offense. He's typically played in slow down, methodical offenses. He wants to get into that mid-range shot. He's not a guy that gets to the basket. He's kind of given up on the three-point shot over the last few years. And between Anthony Davis and Bam, that's just a lot of mid-range jumpers. And that's gonna throw the math off offensively versus where they're at right now, which is leading the league in drives, leading up near the top of the league in shot attempts at the rim, and all of the things that Erik Spoelstra is attempting to do with this offense. And it kind of goes back to our conversation that we had with Ja Morant. It's, do you want the star or do you want the system? And it depends on the star. And if you can find a star who fits the system, even better. But in Ja Morant's case, we already know how he feels about this system, right?
Yeah, I know.
And with Anthony Davis, we know how that it probably would not work. And so it is an interesting question. But a lot more to come out of Dallas. I'm sure we're not done with the news with the Dallas Mavericks and maybe what they could do before the trade deadline. But we're going to go back to an age-old question for Miami Heat fans. Are they better without Tyler Herro? We'll talk about it next.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA season is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the season, maybe you just want to, start of the game, or maybe you want to ride the hot hand. You catch on to a game, and all of a sudden, hey, you know what? Norman Powell leading the league or close to leading the league with first quarter points, and maybe you might see another 33-point explosion the way that you did against the Cavaliers on Monday night. FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's episode is also brought to you by Built. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you must, you might as well get something for it. And that's where Built comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards that you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed toward hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and so much more. But Built isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. I love that with Built, your rent finally works for you. You're earning points every month on something you already have to pay, but it's made everyday life feel even more rewarding, from your neighborhood to your travel plans. So turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. That's JOINBILT.com/LockedOnNBA. Make sure to use that link so they know that we sent you. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. The Heat are succeeding without Bam Adebayo. They've been playing well without Tyler Herro, and we're being asked a very similar question. It feels like this comes up a lot here in Miami. Do the Heat play better without Tyler Herro? And now Bam is being looped into the mix here a little bit, David. Do you want to start with Herro? Do you want to start with Bam? It feels like maybe we start with the Bam part of this.
Yeah, I just think that people are frustrated with Adebayo. And I think we've talked about this a number of times in a number of different ways for a number of years, really, from, we want him to be more aggressive to what's he doing? Maybe he's getting paid too much or something along those lines. And maybe it was a lot more acceptable to kind of, to accept all of what Bam brings to the table when your window is different because of Jimmy Butler. But now that this roster is different and Bam is kind of the veteran of this group, do people kind of view Bam in the same light and want to accept his foibles necessarily? And I don't know that that's the case. It almost seems like the frustration should have been lessened and perhaps to some degree, for whatever reason, it's increased, and that you expect more of Bam within this offense when this offense is tailored to just make Bam the best role player on the planet, and it maximizes him in a way that allows him to do what he thrives at, rather than expecting him to be a 30-point per game scorer, which is what he needed to be in that plodding offense during the Jimmy Butler era. Now he can just do all the little things. That's what he wants to do. That's where he thrives. And yet people are more frustrated because that's all he does is the little things. It's like, guess what? I'm going to clue in a lot of fans right now. We're not doing this as Bam apologists or anything like that, because honestly, it doesn't care. I don't care. It's not my team. I don't own it, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just reporting on what we see. Bam can't afford to do all the little things, and the little things matter. So you better get used to it. If you want somebody who helps you win and win games at a high level, you need a guy like Bam Adebayo who's going to do all the little things. You take Lou Dort off the Oklahoma City Thunder, and everybody doesn't like him. And that's just a reality. But you need a guy like Lou Dort or Alex Caruso to help you win those games. And they won a title last year. So you need a guy like Bam. And now that the expectations are somewhat tempered, you don't need him to be a 30-point per game scorer. Who cares what his salary is? You're not paying it. Just accept him for what he is, which is a really damn good player that specializes in little things on the court. Little things that help you win. And that being the case, I don't think that there's any argument for saying this team plays better without Bam Adebayo, despite the fact that they've won 3 games in a row with him due to injury.
I understand the concerns about a contract generally, right? Like, because it's a salary cap sport, it's not really about, I don't want to pay Bam Adebayo $35 million or $40 million, but I don't want my team paying him this much money because now it affects what else we could do with the roster. Bam's worth this money.
Mm-hmm.
You need a little things guy, especially with Jimmy Butler off the team. Jimmy Butler is a little things guy. He became a big scoring game guy in the playoffs, but he was elite because he was a little things guy. And Bam is elite because he's a little things guy. You can't afford to lose Jimmy Butler and then also not have Bam, because then who's doing the little things on this roster, right? Who's doing the little things for 30-plus minutes per game? It ain't Drew Smith, okay? Like, Bam Adebayo is a high-volume little things guy, and those guys are super important. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, he's also averaging 20 and 8. So it's not like this guy's just out there averaging 10 points per game, which is what I feel like most people think. Some people think he does. Now, again, concerns about the contracts. You wish he could do more offensively. Fine. I've said this all the time about Bam. He's elite at everything for his position and merely very good at scoring. He's just not a number one option. And if you think that this money is commensurate with a number one option and that's it, then I can't help you. But I also want you to compare what Bam makes, because we just kind of throw around max contract, because at the time it was a max contract for Bam. We just throw that around, max contract. Look at some of these other contracts that are out there. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is making 60 plus. Jokic is making 60 plus. Bam ain't nowhere near that. So stop expecting him to be that. And they're not going to give him that kind of money. That's not the money that Bam makes. And that's fine. He's an awesome player. I do think there's some concerns about where he fits into the offense and him figuring that part of it out, because he is so mid-range dependent. They've essentially eliminated the dribble handoff, which is why his assists are at one of the lowest marks since he became a full-time starter, the lowest mark since he became a full-time starter. He's averaging the fewest assists since then. The shooting numbers are a little bit down in terms of percentages, even though he's averaging more points per game than he did last year and the year before that when he made the All-Star team. But I think that stuff works itself out. in general, this team has always been better with Bam on the court, net rating wise. Offensively, this year, they're 5 points better per 100 possessions with Bam on the court. Defensively this year, they are 5 points better per 100 possessions when Bam is on the court. They are 10 points better net when Bam is on the court per 100 possessions. Bam is really important to this team. The other question is Tyler Herro. And I think this is maybe... There might be more legs to this one, David, in terms of how does Tyler Herro fit into this offense when he eventually does come back. We don't know exactly when he's going to come back. Is it at the end of this month? Is it in December? We'll see. I think there are fair concerns about how Tyler Herro looks in this offense. And I'm a Tyler Herro apologist, and I admit it. I think there are fair concerns. I think maybe we get to that on the other side of the break, and then we'll get to also where the Heat rank in the latest NBA power rankings and whether or not we think that's legit. We'll talk about that next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. I said yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint makes it simple. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep the same number and contacts. You'll love that you're getting the same quality service you had before, but for a fraction of the price. The setup is super easy. You just keep your number, and then you're running within minutes. If you're ready to say yes to saying no, well, make the switch at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. An upfront payment of $45 is required, equivalent to the $15 per month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Are the Heat better without Tyler Herro, David?
I don't think so either. I really don't. I think there's a style of play maybe in which he can benefit in. And I think the concerns go back to, was it 2023 when they made the finals run? And Luke, he had a great run as a rookie in the Orlando bubble, and everybody kind of seems to forget that. And then since then, he's not necessarily been a top performer in a playoff setting. And of course, 2023 didn't help when he gets hurt in the first game of the postseason, and then they go on a finals run almost because of his injury, not despite his injury. And so I know that started to kind of fuel the conversation about what Tyler's value is in a playoff setting. And last year didn't do him any favors either because he wasn't exactly great in those playoff performances. So I think there are concerns there. But I also think last year was different than this year in the sense that defenses could key in on what Tyler does and kind of shut him out and not necessarily. He's never going to be, I think, good enough to take over games if the defense is keying on him and trying to limit him. I think he's going to be restricted by his physical limitations, and there's only so much he can possibly do. Having said that, within the context of this offense, I think he will thrive. I think he will flourish. And I'm less concerned about his defensive limitations because you look at a player like Norm Powell, who has been historically viewed as a poor defender, and he's looked pretty solid in his time here in Miami because I think the speed at which they play helps kind of mask whatever defensive inefficiencies you might have. And you've got good enough defenders out there with guys like Andrew Wiggins. Like even Jaime Jaquez looks like a solid defender this season. And we know that he's had problems with that in the past. Right. And again, having a player like Bam out there does really make up for a lot of it. So if you're looking at it from the balance of what he does defensively is going to get mitigated to a huge degree. And for the record, I think Tyler has improved as a defender. What he does offensively, I think is going to be fantastic within the context of this offense. I think he's going to be able to get those shots off whenever he wants to because we know he's a high volume scorer and a hell of a shooter, one of the best shooters on the planet. And that being the case, I can't see why you wouldn't want to bring in a guy who could put up 25 points per game in his sleep. And I think he's going to really help a team that looks even that looks great and makes them going to look even better once he does return to the floor.
The Heat are 11th in offensive rating. They're 7th in defensive rating. They need help offensively still, not defensively. And you could afford a little bit of a drop-off defensively because I do think there's a drop-off with Tyler Herro. But to your point, this pace mitigates some of those concerns, but he's still going to be a guy that opponents are going to target. That's just the case.
Sure.
And that is going to give them an easier thing to do offensively. And that is a concern, right? Like, you don't want to drop off too much defensively, but we've also seen this Heat team be top 10 in defense with Tyler Herro. So I'm less concerned about how viable that is because we've seen it. We've got the proof of concept. Erik Spoelstra could put together a top 10 defense with Tyler Herro in it. And I think that the personnel around Tyler Herro is as good as it's been lately. So there's a case that they can even be better defensively than they've been in the past, even, again, with Tyler Herro. Offensively, they need more, right? And there's a conversation about, well, you've got Norm Powell. Do you necessarily need Tyler Herro? The answer is yes. It's 2025. You need a lot of shooters, not just one. And this Heat team can use more efficient shooting. They're scoring a lot of points. They're not even a top 10 offensive team in the league by offensive rating. They're just playing at this pace where they're putting up a lot of raw point totals, but efficiency-wise, there's still a lot of room for improvement. And with Tyler Herro in this offense, with the ability to pull up from three and from deep, Norm Powell is a good three-point shooter, but he's very much a foot near the line three-point shooter. Tyler Herro is going to be able to hoist it from 30 feet. And that kind of spacing in this offense, with how important the drive and kick game is to this offense, that's going to have a domino effect. And I'm really interested to see how that works if Tyler Herro buys in. And I don't have any reason to suspect that Tyler Herro won't. I think he gets a little bit of a bad rap for being a kind of a possession killer, a pass killer kind of guy. Yeah. I think he had times, especially during the his 6 Man of the Year campaign, where he maybe dribbled it too much, settled for too many mid-range jumpers. We've also seen Tyler Herro dramatically change his game since he entered the league. He's become a above average pick and roll ball handler, where he was not that when he entered the league. We saw him lean into the three-point shot a lot more last year, and just basically it was floaters and threes, and that was it. He kind of eliminated the mid-range shot out of his repertoire last year until they traded Jimmy Butler, and they just needed to do something offensively. And the coaching staff literally went to Tyler Herro and said, "You got to do more mid-range stuff. We just need anything offensively from you." I think he's gonna love this offense. Now, here's the other case.
Yeah,
because yes, he did make the All-Star team last year as primarily a pick-and-roll ball handler guy, right? He would have that ball screen set for him. He would come off that ball screen, and if the defense was playing in drop, he went up for the shot, and he was making that shot at a 40% clip up until the All-Star break. There's a fair question to be asked of, if you get rid of that, what's Tyler Herro's trigger in this offense? You and I are similar in that we don't share that concern as much. I think there's an argument to be made that maybe they could use more ball screens. Like, why not? I know that there's no ball screen, but we know that Erik Spoelstra does not want to be predictable. What if the next evolution of this is reintroducing some of that pick and roll stuff? Not only for Tyler Herro, but also to get Kel'el going a little bit, to get Bam going on the lobs a little bit. Like, we have seen Kel'el and Bam take a step back offensively in terms of production because that lob isn't there. Well, what if Tyler Herro, your highest volume pick and roll guy, is back into the lineup? Maybe that's a chance to unlock things and just add things to, like what Spo likes to say, the menu. Right. I think that's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's like relying on your zone defense. You just always want that in your back pocket. Do you always have to implement? Is that the base of what you do defensively? No. And this is the converse of that on the offensive side, where it's like, you know what? We're going to always look for pace. We're always going to look to push it. But if need be, and we've seen this from the team in the past where they struggled with their half-court offense, why not have the kind of luxury of being able to run more pick and roll, especially now with a guy like Norm, who doesn't hesitate to put that shot up, and to have Tyler out there. Look, if those open shots are going to be available for Andrew Wiggins and Davion Mitchell, how much more dangerous will this offense be when those shots are going to Norm Powell and Tyler Herro? And I think that's the case. That's why you look at this team and you don't worry about Tyler being reintegrated, because Tyler having to create his own shot and dribble through traffic and still be able to put up the points that he does, that's more problematic. But when those shots are open to him, I feel a lot better about his opportunity to be able to capitalize on those.
The other thing we want to get to here, the Miami Heat are 7-4. They are third in the Eastern Conference standings after that win against Cleveland on Monday night. NBA.com released their power rankings. They had the Heat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th in the Eastern Conference, behind New York, Cleveland, Detroit, and Milwaukee. David, this was obviously before the Heat beat the Cavaliers on Monday night. They played the Cavaliers again Wednesday, and then they've got back-to-back games against the New York Knicks, who, again, was number 1 in these Eastern Conference power rankings. But where do you think the Heat are in terms of power rankings in the Eastern Conference, even just absent the fact that, yes, they're third in the East in terms of standings, but like let's take standings necessarily. Let's not go just strictly by the standings. Where are you with the Heat now?
I'd say they're the fourth best team in the East right now. I think Detroit and the Knicks and Cavs would be the only three teams that I feel very comfortable saying are better than that. And the Cavs, like obviously they're just lost Garland. They might be due to hit a couple losses here and there. Miami did beat them on Monday. Who knows what that response will look like on Wednesday. But I think those three teams might be better. Detroit's look phenomenal, so I think that's a clear one. Philadelphia seems to be regressing just a tad. And Chicago, who knows how long they'll be able to keep it up. Maybe you can make the same argument against Miami. But I think Miami's offense is sustainable. I think we've talked about that enough already. And the fact that they're reintegrating Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo, it's like what team can lose two all-stars, weather that storm, and look almost even as good or better without them on the lineup. So I think that's why there's good reason to believe in this team. And having said that, I think they can contend against a lot of these top teams in the Eastern Conference. I'm feeling much more encouraged by what we've seen, their grit. They've got the personality. They've got the desire. They don't look like they fold as easily. There's a joy in that locker room, I think, that is palpable, and I think you really do see that that you definitely did not see last year and maybe even the year before that. Like, I mean, everybody kind of overlooks the whole Damian Lillard trade scenario and how that fell apart and the kind of hangover that created for everything. And then on top of that, last year, then you had Jimmy Butler, and that was kind of a dark cloud hanging over the franchise. The team is just playing with joy. Like, you see it. Everybody's supportive of one another. It's a great group. I love, and this might be a small thing, I love that Tyler and Bam are there on the sidelines, even though they're both out of the lineup. I don't know that you could have said that last year about some of the other stars on this team once they were hurt.
So you have them fourth behind Cleveland, New York, and Detroit. I would agree. And if we're going to tier this out going into the season, I think you had Cleveland and New York tier by themselves at the top of the East. And then after that, you're talking about maybe Orlando, Atlanta. I think Detroit and Milwaukee were kind of in that mix. And then you had another tier that was pretty big of, what do we make of these teams? Miami, Chicago, Philadelphia, Toronto, Charlotte, Indiana, Boston. Like, it was just like, what do we do with this? And I think based off of the first 3 weeks of the season, I feel really comfortable in saying, I think we have a new team in that top tier. And I think that's the Detroit Pistons. I think I've got Cleveland, New York, and Detroit as teams that I could see legitimately winning the Eastern Conference this year. And then in that second tier, I think Miami's moved into that second tier and other teams have dropped out. I've got Miami, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia in that second tier. And I feel really strongly about that. And I think Orlando has dropped out of that group and into that other bigger kind of, what do we make of this team group? Atlanta, ditto for them. I think Chicago is in that group. And that's really it. I feel like there's a top 9 here in just my power rankings. I've got Cleveland, New York, and Detroit in one tier in whatever order. Miami, Milwaukee, Philadelphia in that next tier, kind of battling for home court in the first round, top 6 seed in the East. And then in that next tier of Chicago, Atlanta, Orlando, and a couple of those teams are going to end up in the play-in tournament. But I think the expectation now for the Miami Heat, and I said this in the post-game show yesterday, like the expectation, or maybe not the expectation, but the goal, top 4 seed. That is the new goal, where I thought going into the year, stretch goal was top 6 seed in the Eastern Conference and just avoid the play-in tournament. The new goal is not avoiding the play-in tournament. The new goal is getting home court in the first round.
I agree. And I think it's feasible too. I mean, look, to do that point, you look at the Pacers. A lot of people thought, oh, they'll be able to weather the storm without Halliburton. 1-9. I mean, that's not weathering anything. And I get it.
Without Halliburton and without Nesmith and without like they're all injured. They're
tough. Yeah.
It's been tough.
But a lot can happen too. Again, from Miami's perspective, though, that you're at this point, and we had talked about the start of the season was supposed to be the roughest patch for Miami, and they've been this good this early on. It just kind of you get the feeling that things could get even better as the season progresses, and that wasn't the case. It hasn't been the case for a while, where you kind of like, injuries are always going to set in. It's like, are they ever going to find a way to score above
what did
100
we say
points,
that we thought they'd go 7-14 in their first 21 games? They've
Well,
already won
something
7
like that.
games.
Yeah.
They've already won the 7 games.
I know you made a hot prediction of them being able to win 12 games in a row, right?
That's later in the year. Now it's feeling like they're going into the All-Star break. Yeah, that feels pretty good. So, look, the schedule is still pretty difficult, right? You've got Cleveland, but Cleveland on Wednesday, they're going to be without Darius Garland. They just beat him on Monday. We'll see what happens. I think you could probably split this series with the Knicks. You've got Golden State, who have fallen off a little bit. Now, Steph has been sick. He comes back tonight. We'll see what happens. Chicago, after a hot start, has cooled off a little bit. You got Philadelphia. They're good. Dallas, we just talked about them in the first segment. Milwaukee is kind of up and down. You've got games against Detroit, the Clippers, the Mavericks, the Magic. Like, these are teams that look like really tough that don't look as tough anymore within this first 21 game slate. So we'll see what happens. Let us know in the comment section what you think. Where would you rank the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference? Is there a player on the Dallas Mavericks roster that you want the Heat to poach? But for now, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Josh Lloyd hosts the #1 fantasy basketball podcast, giving you daily tips and helping you win your league. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.